assurances from the RPA customers as well. So we wanted to address both of these through one platform, that is UiPath Test Suite, right? So before I go there, so let's see some of the things that are actually preventing the test automation from scaling, right? And as I said initially, there are more than 70% of testing that's still being done manually, right? So why is it so? Because so when we looked at the World Quality Report, and a lot of things were discussed there, and so when we try to understand the why things are being done manually, it's not like the enterprise teams doesn't have the testers to actually develop the automation script. They all have automation engineers in their team to build automation scripts for testing, but they are what most of the customers, what they are saying is they're just not able to scale, they're just not able to build enough test cases or automate enough test cases to be able to run the entire testing in an automated fashion. So when we try to understand what are some of the frequent factors, this is what it came down to, right? So to the 5 pillars of it. So one is the maintenance. So this we all know, right? It's not just relevant to the test automation. It is also very relevant to the RPA or a business process automation as well. So I usually call this as an automation pandemic, right? So maintenance is something that you don't have a queue to. So only thing that you can do is just try to avoid it, right, through a proactive testing. So maintenance is something that everybody is complaining about. Everybody is trying to address through some way or shape, right? So that is one. And they're simply saying that we just can't keep up with the rate of application change, especially at the test automation scenario, right, where the applications are still being developed. So you probably see a lot of bugs, a lot of change requests, etc. So it is very hard for them to build automation scripts and change it the next day when some bug is fixed or some minor change is being made through the conventional automation script that they're using today. And also the complexity has been increased from what it's been 20 years ago. There are like tons of technologies today on top of which you can build automation, and some of these legacy tools that we have. So I just call them legacy. These are some of the testing tools out there on the market, and these products doesn't actually work with all the technologies and all types of applications. And some of these tools are extremely good at automating one technology, extremely good at automating one type of application, maybe a mobile automation, maybe a mobile testing, maybe a web application, maybe a desktop application, maybe API testing, but not all, right? So this is the issue. There are a lot of things being promised by the legacy test automation vendors, which never been realized, right? And that's also one of the issues that lot of the enterprises reported in the World Quality Conference, right? Another thing is governance and how we deliver, how we consume, how the automations are developed, right? So there is how do you scale, right? Is the simple answer that I usually say to customers is governance, governance, and more governance, right? That's how you scale. And this is very hard to implement in a testing scenario, right? Because testing being a cost center, so you won't get a lot of resources, a lot of funding into this to actually create a great governance model, right? So that is there as well. Another thing about the testing teams is on an average, what we have seen is the ratio between the automation testers and the manual testers is 1 to 10, right? So there will be around 10 manual testers, and among them there will only be one automation tester, right? And there is a lack of skilled developers to actually develop this automation script. That also comes down to these legacy tools being driven by coding languages. You actually have to know the Javas, the C Sharps, or the Pythons to actually write this automation script, right? And they have resource issues that they simply can't put resources and make that investment to actually develop automations and scale them. And tooling is also there. So this is an issue of fragmentation, where if an enterprise today is, when they develop an application, they want to deploy them on multiple channels, right? If I have an application, it should be available as an Android app, it should be available as an iOS app, it should be available access through different sorts of browsers, etc. And tooling today with legacy tools is like you have to have different tools for different for platforms, and that what common complaint from the customers is we just have too many tools, right? Which means that I have to have developers of different skills for the same application, right? Just because I'm deploying it in multiple channels, I have to bring in multiple developers with different skills. So these are some of the issues that are actually preventing automation scaling uh, as discussed from most of the customers. We got this consensus that these are the things that are actually preventing automation scaling, right? And how does it affect your ROI? So it basically dampens your ROI curve. So if you look at it, right, so when you develop a few automation scripts, so we call it an automation honeymoon period, right? When your automation scripts are in single digits or somewhere, so you instantly see some ROI, right? So the moment you automate few automations, and then they'll give you some sort of a saving probably not just in terms of time or AHT, it might be in terms of accuracy, it might be in terms of the money saved, etc., etc. But when you automate a few scripts, you always see some sort of a reward instantly. But when you try to automate more and more, when you try to scale, when you probably reach a point where you have 100 automations or 500 automation, it's different from for different customers, this point of inflation. But there will be a point in any customer's automation journey, so where they'll start experiencing the maintenance issues, right? So where their automation simply stops working, they have to go back and actually fix those automations to before going back and fixing and doing this unplanned maintenance will actually take time away from actually developing the new automation scripts as well. So all the issues that I mentioned on the previous slide just brings down your ROI, right? This ROI curve is significantly dampened, as you can see with the issues that I mentioned below. So this is a serious issue. These are the issues that are directly affecting the ROI of an enterprise here. And that is from the testing perspective, right? And when I say testing, from an application testing perspective, so that is when we spoke to test automation teams. So on the other side of things, as I said, this is a product that is being developed with a two-pronged approach to cater to both application testing as well as automation testing, or RPA testing as generally being called. So we went ahead and spoke to some of our leading customers and asked them, how are you testing automation today, right? So and we had a very elaborate survey with 46 questions or so. We got a very good response from a lot of our leading customers. So the question that we asked, important question that we asked, is what is causing maintenance, right? And everybody was complaining, we have to maintain, we are not able to scale, etc. When we asked them, so they said 42% of them said it's because of the application changes, right? And this is not a big surprise. We all know that automations fail because there will be some minor changes in the application itself. So, and we also asked another important question that when you actually test your automation, the RPA workflows. So 60% of them said during development, right? And this actually is not testing. This is basically debugging that you're doing. So you're making sure that whatever workflow that you've developed is actually working fine. This doesn't actually qualify as a proper testing to be reported with any quality assurance, right? And another shocker that we got to know is 23% of the customers responded said they don't do RPA testing. So they just developer does debugging and they just put it to production, right? And that is these are some of our leading customers, and we were very surprised to hear that out. And there are 17% of customers who are actually on the right path, where they are actually continuously testing their automation, right? And we think that is the right path to go. And we also asked about how do you test your automations, and we got a response that 76% of the customers are testing their automations manually. This is a paradox, right? Because you are actually manually testing an automation, right? And that doesn't make a lot of sense. But that is the reality today with most of the customers, where they manually go and check different scenarios and then report it to the stakeholders, right? And the testing, automation testing, is still done manually today with most of our customers. So if you just look at an organization, right, an enterprise of any industry, so they'll have three main departments. One is the development, so where the applications are being developed, and there will be IT operations where the applications developed by your teams are managed, and there is business which actually consumes the applications that are developed and managed by development and IT operations team, right? And this is set up in most organizations. So, but when you develop a business process automation, right, and this is where you develop business process automation, they are already being developed, tested, deployed by your IT team, and business is just consuming these applications, and you will get a various use cases. What you do is probably try to automate it. And so most of the time, the complaints that we are hearing is here, right? And we always complain there is very high maintenance, right, of RPA workflows. But what are the issues that are leading to this high maintenance? And if we think of them, this is basically an application issue or an automation issue or an environment issue, right? These are the issues that are actually leading to high maintenance. So, but if you think of it, and these are not, and what we do when my automation breaks due to one of these issues is I try to fix this at the business end, right? But fixing these issues, because these issues are not originating at business end, right? These applications are issues are coming from development. So the environment issues are coming from IT environment, right? And these are not the issues of the business at all. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to fix them at business end. It is like trying to feed a dying tree through its leaves, right? And it's never going to work. So what we have to do is we need to address them at their root, right? So we need to send these issues back from where they are originating and try to address them then and there, right? So that is when you can actually manage it. So what we propose is to have a quality gate between development, IT, and business, right? So that is what the UiPath test suite offers you, right? The ability to completely end-to-end test your enterprise from development environment. The applications that are being developed can be tested by the UiPath platform. So the environment where these applications are deployed can be tested by UiPath platform, and the automations that are being developed on top of it can be tested by UiPath test suite, right? So by doing all these things, eventually with the full control over the quality of what is being developed and delivered in your organization, this will eventually lead to lower maintenance at your business end as well, right? And not just that, so if you are, for example, as I said, so these are applications, they're developed, managed, and consumed by business. And usually these applications are same, right? So this is the same application. And when you think of it, you build automations in each of these departments. So during development, you will build automation to test these applications. During IT operations, you build automations to ease the maintenance of IT, ramping of VMs, etc. There's a lot of IT automations as well. And obviously, we're doing a lot of business process automation here as well. So what we are essentially doing is we are building automation to the same applications at three different departments, right? And this leads to a lot of fragmentation, and each of these department uses different automations tool today in most organizations. So our vision is to integrate all these three departments and provide one singular platform that can address all the automation needs of an organization, right? So by doing that, so what essentially you can do is if you are developing automations for testing an application during the development process, and the same automation can be shared to the business process automation developers so that they can just reuse it and build the business process automations, right? And that makes it pretty much simpler, and that also uh, 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 brings in a lot of value from the testing teams, which is basically considered as cost centers today, right? Because they don't add anything of value, they're just testing. It doesn't just directly generate revenue, but by using a singular platform for both testing as well as business process automation, so you would be able to reuse some of the artifacts that are being developed from your testing team in business process automation. And that is essentially getting more value out of the testing team that you have. You are essentially converting a cost center into a value center here. And all these things that I said is basically leading to an automation convergence, right? So where I am trying to combine both test automation and process automation, right? Having a single platform to do both testing as well as automating your business processes, right? So, and that is the whole idea of this. And for doing that, so for doing this, the testing, so we all know that UiPath is a platform that is that can help you automate the business processes. But to be able to do test automation, to be able to test both applications and automations, so we needed to come up with a platform. It's a platform which is both open in nature, and also it has to be built on a proven technology, right? It needs to be open because, as I said, test automation is not new, right? It is there from a very, very long time, and most of your enterprises will have a huge investments on the ALMs, on the DevOps tool chain, etc., etc. So I can't go and just replace them. So a right platform should integrate and work with them, right? And that is where a platform, platform with an open architecture is important when it comes to test automation, right? And that is what so UiPath Test Suite is going to provide you. So basically, the core of the UiPath test suite is same as the core of the UiPath RPA platform. So you would have the UiPath Studio, Orchestrator, and the robots. So what we have done is we have added the capabilities to the same core to cater to the testing needs, right? For example, when you look at test automations, so it is not just the testing the web or the desktop or the APIs, right? And you have mobile applications as well. So what we did is we added those capabilities into the UiPath Studio, that UiPath Studio can also cater to the mobile testing as well, right? So similarly, and when you think of testing, so you will be verifying a lot of things, right? And you will be needing to generate test data, etc. So we added all these capabilities to the UiPath Studio to make it more conducive to testing teams, right? And by this, what we are doing is we are taking the proven technology which is leading in the world of business process automation, and bringing the same benefits into the testing team, right? So and we've just sort of done the same thing with the orchestrator as well. So we introduced a new menu in the UiPath orchestrator, so which helps you manage the testing related elements like managing test cases, creating test sets, creating test schedules, managing test data, etc., etc. Right? We have a dedicated menu in Orchestrator, so which helps the automation tester to better adopt to the world of RPA, and start using the UiPath platform for the conventional application or software testing that is being done today. And this is all at the automation end, right? So the studio orchestrator and robots, what essentially helps you do is it helps you develop automation scripts for the test cases that you have, and it helps you run, schedule, and get results out of it. But the other aspect of the testing teams is to map these test cases, to map these test automation into the requirements, to the actual requirements that are being given to them during the development of an application, right? And most of the development today happens in an agile model. So you would have epic stories that are being created from your stakeholders. The developers develops them, and then you would have a bunch of test scenarios with it. As a testing team, you need to create test cases for these scenarios and automate them and run and provide the results back to your team. And these process end to end can't be manual, right? And the steps that I explained, like managing requirements, creating test cases, all these things are done in different products, right? And you need to actually have an integrated environment where the test automation that you are running on UiPath, and the result of which has to be mapped back to the actual story that is being created by the product owner, right? So to be able to do that, so as I initially also mentioned, people usually use an ELM tools for requirements management. ELM tools like the Jira, the HP CLM, or the SAP Solution Manager, or Azure DevOps. This is some of the stuff that people use for managing requirements, creating these agile stories, etc. And what we did is, so we created a connection hub, right? So this is all basically test management, right? So we created a product called Test Manager, so which acts like a bridge between the world of UiPath and the world of test management, right? So, or the agile world today, right? So basically, whatever ALM tool that you're using today, whatever DevOps tool chain that you're using today, so test manager can essentially integrate with it, right? So what is the difference? You could test manager as his own capabilities as well. Test, you could actually, if you let's say as an organization, you don't have a requirements management tool today. So you're not using Jira, you're probably managing requirements in an Excel sheet. If you're in that state, so you could just go ahead and leverage test manager for creating your stories, for creating your test cases, and then creating automation in UiPath and link back the results, etc. But if you already have made investments on some of these tools, so test manager as a unique capability is to actually connect with them and actually work with it, right? So how this basically flows is, you, for example, I'll take an example for Atlassian Jira. So let's say an application needs to be delivered, needs to be developed for a business need. And if your product owner creates requirements here, your testing team is going to go and create test cases for it. And all the test cases that are created in Jira will automatically be synced to Test Manager. So there's a connector that we have built. And those test cases can be automated in the UiPath Studio, and it can be scheduled in UiPath Orchestrator to run. And the UiPath robots runs those test cases, and the results of which will be piggyed back to Test Manager, and in turn, the Test Manager will send the results back to your Atlassian Jira as well. So that as a product owner, as a business person, so you could just go to the Atlassian Jira or whatever application lifecycle management tool that you're using today, and you could get a clear picture of what is my requirement, what were the test scenarios, and whether they were automated. If they were automated, what were the test results, right? So the complete picture of it will be available on your ALM tools, and for us to make that release decision, right? Whether or not this particular requirement has been developed properly, and whether or not this particular product is ready for production deployment, etc. Right? So that is the whole idea of it, to have an end-to-end development and testing platform integrated and available for you, right? And this goes, the concept of this is not just for the application testing or development teams. So this holds good for RPA testing and development as well, right? And today, as you know, so you might not be creating requirements in any of the ALM tools. Some customers, some of the matured ones, are using the ALM tools for creating requirements for business process automation as well. So, but if you are not doing that today, the test suite will allow you to do that, because you would have a complete tool chain that is needed to manage a software. As initially mentioning, automations are as critical as a software today. So you could use the same tool chain to actually manage your automation to the same level of managing an application as well, where you could go ahead and create your requirements, your automation requirements on Test Manager. So whatever test scenarios that needs to be tested to put that automation in production can be automated using the UiPath Studio, and you could run that, and your automation owners can come and see all the results on Test Manager and make a release decision whether they can take that automation into production or not, right? So essentially what we are trying to do is to bring together both application testing as well as automation testing to the same level and using the same platform, right? So I think so. This is what we have come to, right? Basically, I'm speaking about. I already spoke about the convergence of process and test automation. So what we want to term this, right? So I don't want to call this as process automation, this is test automation, I need this tool for process automation, this tool for test automation, etc. So overall, automation is automation at the end of the day, right? And the use of automation might be different. Sometimes you automate to test, sometimes you automate to do business, right? It doesn't matter, but the automation is the same. So what we want to deliver is to deliver an enterprise platform that would cater to every automation need in your organization, right? So as I mentioned, all these three main departments, development, IT, and business. So you would be able to use similar platform to automate everything in every department that you have in your organization. And this essentially allows you to cross leverage automation assets, infrastructures, and script. You don't have to build new teams for new departments. You don't have to build new infrastructure for new departments, etc. You could centrally control and monitor the automation. This is something that we are driving from UiPath to most of our customers. And why should you care, right? I'm just trying to summarize. So why you should go for an enterprise automation instead of having separate teams for test automation as well as business process automation, right? One important thing is you would avoid automation fragmentation. So you would be able to share and reuse automation components and objects across these departments of testing, IT, as well as business process automation. And so as I mentioned, we have a very open architecture. It fits perfectly with the DevOps tool chain that we have today. As I said, you have Jira, you have Azure DevOps, you have Jenkins, so we connect with them all, right? So we have some out-of-the-box connectors so to some of the popular tools like Azure DevOps and Jenkins, etc. And we also provide you an SDK, so which allows you, if some of these tool chains are in-house or niche, right? So we also provide an SDK that allows you to build your own connector to the applications or the DevOps chain that you already have. Essentially, a very open architecture, similar to what you get with an orchestrator APIs, you would also get with the test manager as well. All features of test manager is also open through APIs, which opens up an opportunity to integrate with any of your DevOps tool chain as well. And you know this about the UiPath platform already, since the core of the test suite is same as the UiPath RPA platform. So you would be essentially able to automate virtually anything, right? UI, API, and we, as I mentioned, we have also introduced mobile automation to it. So which means that anything in your organization can be automated using UiPath platform, and you can use it for testing, you can use it to business. It's up to you, right? And that is the beauty of an enterprise automation platform. And also what this does is, since all our components are sort of built for business process automations, which are usually high stakes and more critical than test automation, so these are a cut above the traditional legacy tools that you see for test automation, right? Because business process automation requires some innovation, continuous innovation. It requires intelligence being added on a very frequent basis. Essentially, by using test suite, so you will be able to get all those the innovations to the testing, right? Which is not possible today because you're using a legacy tool, or you're probably coding it using Selenium, etc., right? And this essentially brings all the cutting edge innovation into the hands of testers as well. Also mentioned in terms of, I mentioned that in the word quality report, one of the major issues was governance. It is very hard to do governance in test environments because the tools today doesn't just put that much importance into the governance in test environment just because it's testing, right? So but since, as I mentioned, we have this is a production grade automation platform which is trickling the features into the testing market. So you would get the same level of production grade security and orchestration into the testing as well. And community, I don't think I have to talk about the UiPath community here. So we all are here, and we have 1.3 million certified UiPath developers. So which is by far the highest for any automation vendor out there, and we have the biggest forum, biggest marketplace out for any automation vendor, and essentially testing teams can also leverage the expertise of the UiPath community by signing up into the UiPath test suite, right? So this is all about the test suite, right? I think initially I mentioned that we are sort of trying to change the future of testing, right? How it is looked upon. So we believe the future of testing is digital, right? And we all sort of agree with this. And this doesn't mean that I am trying to replace your testing team and try and put robots into it, right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to empower your testing teams, right? And there are essentially two types of personas in any testing team today. One is a manual tester. So he is an expert, right? He knows all the ins and outs of the organization, ins and outs of the features being built, why it is being built. So he is better placed to actually understand and test any application, right? So this is one. But what he lacks is a skill for development. So he can't sit and develop an automation script, right? That essentially ties him to do or test only few features, because he can only do certain number of testing manually, which is humanly possible, right? And there is another end, you have test automation engineers. These are basically developers who understands how to automation, who understands how to grab a screen here, how to navigate between screen to screen using an automation scripts, etc. Right? And these two roles, as I said, the ratio is also insane. There is one automation developer to 10 manual testers in every testing team today on an average. So what we are essentially proposing is a third persona, right? So this third persona is basically, we don't want to create this persona. It's not like we are saying that you have to add a digital tester to your testing team. So we want to convert your manual and test automation engineers into digital testers, right? This is essentially the best of both worlds. Someone with deep domain knowledge, we want to provide them with the best in class tools to be able to eliminate those repetitive manual tasks that they are doing today by navigating to the screen and verifying something. And the biggest challenge for doing this today is, like, every organization wants to convert their manual testers into automation testers, because they can't do it, because converting my manual tester into an automation testers requires them to upskill their manual testers in coding, in technologies, etc. So, but using UiPath Test Suite, UiPath being a pretty no-code or a low-code platform, so it makes it easy for manual testers to transition into the automation testers, or what we are trying to call as a digital tester, right? So, and this is a big initiative where so we are trying to convert those 90% of manual testers in testing teams into automation developers, essentially creating value, right? And when they become the UiPath developers, when they become digital testers, as I mentioned before, the same assets can be used in business, because most of the time business processes is leveraging the same UiPath platform, right? And that is the whole idea of the digital tester. So for what is there for QA teams to become digital testers is 90% automation rate, because as you know, there is 10% of testing which will never be automated. That is because it might not be repeatedly tested, or there'll be some subjective things that needs to be seen, like probably a UI testing or something like that. So 90% of automation, right? Because we can virtually automate anything, and you would also get the innovation that we do in RPA directly into our hands. And it also makes you a value contributor, right? Today you are a cost center. Today you don't add to the revenue of an organization, but if you are a digital tester, the assets that you're developing can be leveraged by business process automation, and it essentially makes you a value contributor, right? And what is there for RPA developers? As I mentioned, there is a growing chorus for quality assurance in business process automation today. And essentially using UiPath Test Suite is going to bring that quality mindset and skills to the RPA developers. It's high time that we follow all the best practices, that we follow all the compliance and deliver automations as smoothly as application development teams are delivering their softwares, right? And QA management, as I said, there is no QA management today most of the time. So we do a couple of testing like an UAT. We don't have any metrics behind it. We don't have any coverage details behind it. So UiPath Test Suite is going to give all these features to you essentially. Whatever assets that are being provided with the quality assurance of a software, you could do that the same with the automation as well. And RPA testing tools. Of course, it was not there before. So with the test automation introduced, so we have introduced a lot of exciting features into the RPA testing world as well. One recently being, so we have released an experimental feature where we are auto generating test cases for the RPA workflows that you are generating. Right, it's in an experimental stage, but you could go ahead and have a look at it. So we'll probably try to demonstrate it in the incoming sessions. But that's something exciting that I'm seeing in RPA testing. This product is fairly new. It is there for a year or so now, but it is being continuously improved. Right, the features are being added every release, and making it more and more easier for RPA developers to actually develop that quality mindset and easily test their automation workflows to the standard of software testing and software quality assurances. So this is just some of the customers that are doing the automation testing today, along with application team. These are some of the customers who have embarked the journey of enterprise automation, right? These are some of the customers who wanted to use one platform for all their automation needs. They are seeing great success, and probably it's time that we as a community go back to our enterprises and suggest them using test suite for both automation as well as both test as well as process automation. Okay, so and this is just for your information. I think you guys have already seen this in LinkedIn a lot of times. So we have been named as a leader in cloud testing market. And the great thing about it, we debuted as a leader, right? And this is the first time actually UiPath was considered in this report. This is the first time that we qualified, and directly we went to the leaderboard. That is most thanks to the UiPath's core technology that is being polished over the years for business process automation. So just to summarize, so what is the value proposition of UiPath Test Suite? The thing is, we want to transform the quality assurance. So we want to elevate testing from just being a cost center to being a value contributor. We want the testing teams to become digital, and we want to empower the testers, right? We want to surround every tester with a production grade automation and AI powered tools, and we want to liberate customers from the legacy tools that they are using, right? And basically that is to go behind beyond the legacy testing tool that they have today and embark on a modern automation journey with an enterprise automation platform that is UiPath, right? So that is what I wanted to discuss today. So as I said, you are going to see these products. You are going to see these products in live, in demo in the coming sessions. This is just to give you an idea on what UiPath Test Suite is trying to solve and what are the products that we have to offer for you, right? So I'll take a quick pause here, and I'll probably hand it over to Lahiru and Rubin to take it over from here.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, for that awesome presentation. So that's a lot of information about the testing suite. So many new things to learn. And yeah, so along with this, I actually thought of sharing one use case that I've been dealing with for the last couple of months. So basically, our team is actually connected with one of the clients, and they basically have a lot of ongoing RPA developments in UiPath. And in parallel to that, they also have a lot of internal system changes. So basically, they are upgrading the existing systems into new applications, and they already have certain RPA workflows that they have built over the past couple of years. And some of our team members are actually, focused on upgrading those workflows into the new thing that to support the new applications. And in parallel, there are so many other new developments going on when it comes to the process automation side. So because there are so many things going on at the same time, parallel to each other, they basically wanted to automate this testing side because they have RPA workflows to test and they have internal applications that they're upgrading and they want to test to make sure those things are working perfectly. So what they did is they came up with a test automation side team. So what they do is they are actually using the UiPath test suite, and they basically use it to test the existing RPA workflows and the new things that they're building, basically the refined versions, to ensure that it runs on the new application perfectly. And at the same time, they also want to ensure the newly introduced application, it is also working fine. So basically the RPA workflows are built on an application that they are still setting up. So it might be crazy at sometimes, but they're running with so many tight deadlines, so they have to make all these things work before a particular date. So somehow there is a proper plan in place so that applications and workflows and everything is being done parallelly. So that's why testing is actually helping us in that area, so that the workflows, systems, and everything is being tested through UiPath test suite. And just like Ashwa mentioned, it can be linked with the other tools like Jira. So that's the other thing that they have used. So test suite is actually connected with Jira, so that all these test cases that they're testing, there are hundreds of test cases. For all those things, it is connected with Jira. So whenever an issue is reported, it is connected to Jira, and all those things will be logged in those systems. So all the respective people, they know what's going on when it comes to testing and what things to fix and how to fix and all this stuff. So that is one use case that I wanted to share of while we are doing this development. And on the other side, so we also talked about this continuous testing. So there was another recent use case. So that is mainly, we had ongoing automation for like last couple of years. The thing is, the application they used was very old. So over time, they have been trying to improve it to support the new requirements and support the new technology that we have. So over time, there have been few changes here and there, time to time. So that had a tendency of, breaking the automation that we already have in place. So because of that reason, we also focused on this automated testing, so that it does the continuous testing time to time based on different frequencies that they have in place based on their requirements. So in a way that ensures that the application is working fine, and also it ensures that if something is wrong, we know that early on before running into any issues and delays in the automation side of things, so that we can fix things accordingly. So those are some two experiences that I got over the last couple of months in this testing side. So just wanted to share so that these are some real use cases that that happen across the globe.
Mhm.
So I'd like to thank Ashreya for his detailed presentation, and I say maybe that's the reason we don't have any question till now, I guess. So thank you, Ashreya, for that. But to pick the main points from your presentation, Ashreya. So correct me if I'm wrong. So we're not just talking about RPA workflows testing in here, right, Ashreya?
Yeah,
We
so
can,
we are,
yeah,
as I said, it has two parts to it, right? Two-pronged
yeah,
approach. So you could test applications. When I say applications, if you are building a web application, a desktop application, or a mobile application, you will be able to test them all,
correct.
right? So whatever what used to be called as a software testing can also be
Hmm.
done using the UiPath.
Excellent, excellent. So that's the main reason I'd say a UiPath test suite is been separated from other automation tools or tests available in the market. Ashra, would you agree with me?
Yeah. So yes, there is no other platform in the market that would allow you to do what I term as an enterprise automation. It allow you
Hmm.
to build
Right.
business process automation, test business process automation, and also test application. This is the
And
only
also,
product on the
yeah,
market.
yeah, yeah, right. And also the other tools, they need to have some, programming knowledge or something like that. But here we are talking about code platform where we can easily build the test cases and test our any applications, right?
Yep. So majorly, so most of the legacy test automation vendors would also be. So either there are some drivers, for example, if you take Selenium, for example, it's just a driver, right? You need to build a framework, you need to write scripts,
Correct.
actually develop scripts on that. Whereas UiPath, drag and drops, whatever that you've been doing for building business process automation, could do the same for testing your web mobile application.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. So Lahiru,
Yeah, so Robin, that also kind of you can relate that to the same use case that I mentioned just a while ago.
yeah, correct,
So
correct.
at the initial stage, they were also evaluating what are the tools that we can use because they had both requirements, right, to test the application and test the workflows. So there
Correct.
were a lot of discussions around that, and then after evaluating all these things, they actually, they saw the potential in UiPath Test Suite, and it's just one platform so that we can just do all the kind of testing that they want to do over there.
Correct. Right.
So that is one of the unique advantages, just like Asha mentioned. So yeah,
And to another point, right? So to achieve 100% CI/CD, right? That is like the buzz of the industry. What is CI/CD? Is basically a developer checks in the code, checks in the workflow, and it goes to the production. And between these two, checking in the code and going into the production, there are several steps. You have to take the code and deploy it. You have to check the code quality. You need to test it thoroughly, and then deploy to different environments. If there is uh, environments between it, right? Uh, in achieving this CI/CD, one thing that was missing, right, to be able to do this completely automated, right, from checking in to going into production, was testing, right? Because you could never automate the automation testing before, and you could do the black box testing, like take the entire process and just run it on the testing environment, but that would never give you any insights, right? And that would never test the edge cases, and you would never be able to say or give any quality assurance on top of it. By essentially using test suite and creating proper test cases with that, so you would now be able to deliver your automations in the same manner as a software by creating a CI/CD pipeline, right? You could leverage the same DevOps tool, Azure DevOps, Jenkins, that are there on the market, and have a complete best practice in your organization, right? Have the code quality checked through the workflow analysis that we have. So have testing done through UiPath test suite, build automated testing, and you could move the code between different environments, from different orchestrator to different tenants, using the DevOps connectors that we have. Jenkins, Azure DevOps, we have connectors there. So you could build an end-to-end pipeline that can take care of your delivery mechanism, right? Basically the continuous integration and continuous delivery. So, and that is now possible for automation as well. As I mentioned, you should treat your automation as same as any software that you have in your organization, and try to come up with this kind of a governance model, and try to reach that 100% CI/CD. And that's what most mature customers are trying to achieve today as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, excellent. So as we don't have any other questions, so Rohit. You there, Rohit?
Not sure whether it's talking on mute.
Yeah. Anyway.
Then also, I think we can just open this up, right? So if anybody in the audience has any questions, right, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, or even if you have any experience around these things, that's something that you have experience, so you can feel free to share with all of us.
Yeah, right. So you guys can unmute yourself maybe, and start talking if you want to share some experiences that you faced, or anything like in the next sessions you want to see, something like that.
Okay, yes, there's no more questions to answer. So in that case, so stay tuned for our next update that will be posted in the next couple of hours for the next session on the test suite. So once that is available, please register and make sure you join so that we can learn more around testing. And that being said, Rohit, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that is perfect. Please do stay tuned for the next two sessions as well as a series. Meanwhile, if there are any suggestions from participants side on any topics that they would want to get covered as a part of some of the future sessions, please do connect with us on LinkedIn and write to us over there. We will be more than happy to guide you or probably. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Okay, I think in that case we can.
All right. Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, and see you in the next session.
Thank you all.
See you in the next session. Bye.